Imagination is not a mere escape from reality. It is the foundation of which reality is built. Every invention, every work of art, every great achievement first existed in the unseen world thought before it materialized the physical world. The rarest women understand this truth intimately. They know that life does not happen to them. It happens through them in response to the images they hold within their minds. To the ordinary mind, imagination is dismissed as fantasy, something separate from the tangible world. But those who grasp its true nature recognize it as the most powerful force available to mankind. Every experience, whether of success or failure, love or loss, abundance or lack, begins as an assumption in the imagination. The outer world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting the dominant thoughts and beliefs a person holds about themselves and their circumstances. These rare women do not live by appearances. They do not accept what the five senses dictate as final reality. Instead, they close their eyes to the present world and construct in their minds a new vision, a higher possibility. They assume the feeling of already being the woman they wish to be, of already having all that they desire. And because they persist in this assumption, life rearranges itself to reflect it. They understand that every thought has a frequency and energy that seeks expression. If they dwell on limitations, those limitations will solidify around them. If they focus on wealth, success, and love, their world must bring forth circumstances that align with these states. There is no randomness, no external force determining their fate, only the precise unfolding of what they have imagined, consciously or unconsciously. Unlike those who see reality as fixed and unchangeable, the rarest women know that the unseen is more real than the seen. They do not wait for external proof before believing in their power. Instead, they act from the conviction that their imagined world is already real, allowing their faith to call it into existence. They walk as the woman they wish to be before the doubt has no place in their minds. They do not entertain conflicting ideas, for they know that to waver is to delay. Instead, they persist in their vision, unbothered by the apparent lack of results in the present moment. They trust the process, knowing that the seed planted in imagination must eventually break through into physical form. They do not ask, how will it happen or when will it come, because they understand that these questions stem from a lack of faith. Their only concern is to remain unwavering in their assumption. They know that once a thing is assumed with feeling, the path to its fulfillment is set in motion. The means, the people, the opportunities, all align effortlessly to bring forth the imagined state. In a world where many react blindly to circumstances, these rare women create deliberately. They recognize that the mind is the birthplace of all things, and that to master it is to master life itself. A woman's self-concept is the foundation of her entire life. It dictates what she attracts, what she repels, what she tolerates, and what she creates. The rarest women in the world understand this fundamental truth. They do not derive their worth from external validation, nor do they allow the shifting opinions of others to define them. Their sense of self is rooted in something far deeper, something unshakable. They know they are the operant power in their reality, the sole creators of their experiences. These women do not seek permission to be who they are. They do not wait for the world to recognize their value because they already know they are worthy. Their self-concept is not based on fleeting circumstances, temporary setbacks, or the approval of others. Instead, it is anchored in unchanging truth. They are limitless, they are powerful, and they are divine. A woman with a divine self-concept does not chase, she attracts. She does not beg, she commands. She moves through life with an aura of certainty, not because she is arrogant, but because she is fully aware of who she is. She does not identify with lack, struggle, or unworthiness, because she understands that whatever she believes about herself must be reflected back to her in the world. If she sees herself as a woman who is loved, respected, and abundant, life has no choice but to confirm this belief. She does not entertain self-doubt or indulge in negative self-talk, for she knows that to do so would be to sabotage her own power. She speaks to herself as she would to someone she deeply loves, affirming her strength, her beauty, and her ability to create. She holds herself in the highest regard, not from vanity, but from the deep knowing that she is the very expression of infinite intelligence. When she enters a room, her presence is felt. Not because she is the loudest, not because she demands attention, but because she carries herself with an undeniable energy of self-assurance. Others sense her confidence, her grace, and her unwavering belief in herself. They respond to her accordingly, treating her as she expects to be treated, mirroring back to her the self-respect and self-love she holds within. Saying what? She does not cling to things, people, or situations that do not serve her. She understands that nothing outside of her gives her value. She is valuable simply because she exists. If something is not in alignment with her highest self, she releases it without fear, knowing that better will always come. She never settles because she knows she doesn't have to. Her power lies in her ability to assume the identity of the woman she desires to be long before the world reflects it. She does not wait to be chosen. She chooses herself. She does not hope to be worthy. She declares that she already is. The rarest women in the world move with this knowing, never questioning, never wavering, simply embodying the truth of who they are. Faith is not hope, nor is it mere optimism. Faith is certainty, a knowing so absolute that nothing in the external world can shake it. The rarest women in the world possess this kind of faith. Not a blind belief in chance, but an unbreakable conviction that what they desire is already theirs. They do not question whether things will work out in their favor. They assume it as fact. They do not look to circumstances for proof. They create the proof by persisting in their assumption. These women do not waver between belief and doubt. They do not entertain thoughts of failure or impossibility, because they understand that to do so would be to undermine their own power. They have trained their minds to remain fixed on their vision, unmoved by obstacles, untouched by delay. When the world presents them with evidence that contradicts their desires, they do not react with fear or discouragement. Instead, they remain firm in their assumption, knowing that what they see is only a reflection of past thoughts, not a prophecy of what is to come. Faith is not passive. It does not wait. It does not hesitate. The rarest women act as if their desires are already fulfilled. They walk as though they already have what they want. They think, speak, and move in alignment with the reality they have claimed for themselves. They do not look outside for validation. They validate themselves by embodying the state of fulfillment. When challenges arise, they do not crumble. They do not allow fear to dictate their decisions. Instead, they use every difficulty as a tool to reinforce their faith. They remind themselves that everything is unfolding perfectly, even when it appears otherwise. They do not ask how or when. They trust that their faith alone is enough to bridge the gap between the unseen and the seen. To the outside world, this kind of certainty may seem irrational. Others may question them, doubt them, try to impose their own fears upon them. But the rarest women do not concern themselves with opinions of those who do not understand the power of faith. They do not need external agreement, for they are sustained by their own inner knowing. They recognize that their belief alone is enough to bring about the change. They do not let temporary setbacks shake them. If something does not unfold immediately, they do not see it as failure. They understand that just as a seed takes time to grow, so too does a desire require persistence and patience. They hold on to their vision with unwavering confidence, knowing that it must come to pass. Their faith is their shield, their guide, their source of limitless power. It is not dependent on external conditions. It transcends them. It does not fade in the face of difficulty. It strengthens. This is the faith that moves mountains, bends reality, and turns the unseen into the seen. This is the faith that makes them rare, unstoppable, and truly limitless. The rarest women in the world do not allow circumstances to dictate their reality. They do not react to life, they command it. While others are swayed by the shifting tides of external events, these women remain anchored in their inner power, knowing that all circumstances are merely reflections of past assumptions. They do not see themselves as victims of fate, but as the architects of their own experiences. Mastery over circumstances begins with mastery over the mind. The rarest women do not allow their emotions to be dictated by what is happening around them. They do not crumble in the face of adversity, nor do they give power to situations that appear unfavorable. They understand that the outer world is nothing more than a mirror, reflecting back the beliefs they hold within. If they do not like what they see, they do not fight the reflection. They change the source. They do not resist or struggle against unwanted situations, for they know that resistance only strengthens them. Instead, they shift their focus, deliberately assuming the state they desire to experience. They do not engage in worry or doubt because they know that doing so only reinforces what they do not want. Instead, they maintain an unshakable conviction that reality will conform to their inner state. When challenges arise, they do not ask, why is this happening to me? But instead, how can I use this to strengthen my power? They view obstacles as illusions, temporary conditions that hold no real weight in the face of their own determination. They do not react impulsively or emotionally. They respond with wisdom, seeing every situation as an opportunity to further refine their ability to create. These women do not wait for circumstances to change before they feel secure, successful, or loved. They embody these states first, knowing that the outer world must follow. They do not chase after outcomes or force situations to unfold. Instead, they assume their desires are already fulfilled, and in doing so, they make it inevitable. Time holds no power over them. They do not stress over delays or concern themselves with when things will manifest. They trust in the natural order of creation, knowing that what they have claimed internally must materialize in due time. They remain patient yet firm, unwavering in their assumption that everything is working in their favor. They do not allow the words or opinions of others to shake their confidence. They do not need validation from the outside world, for they validate themselves. If someone tells them that something is impossible, they do not argue or defend their vision. They simply persist in their assumption, knowing that the external world must eventually align with their inner certainty. Every event, every challenge, every moment is an opportunity to demonstrate mastery over circumstances. The rarest women do not react to life as it is. They shape life into what they declare it must be. They are unmoved by appearances, unaffected by temporary conditions, and unwavering in their belief that they alone are the operant power in their reality. The rarest women in the world do not allow circumstances to define them. They do not wait for conditions to be perfect before they decide to feel powerful, confident, or successful. Instead, they dictate how the world responds to them by mastering their inner state. They understand that reality is not something to be endured, but something to be shaped, molded, and directed by their thoughts, assumptions, and unwavering belief in their own power. While most people live in reaction to external conditions, these women remain unmoved by temporary appearances. They do not allow a setback to convince them of failure, nor do they interpret delays as signs that their desires are unattainable. They know that every experience is merely a reflection of past thoughts, a momentary echo of an old state of being. If they wish to change what they see in the world, they first change the assumptions they hold within. These women refuse to be victims of their environment. They do not complain, blame, or make excuses, because they know that doing so only reinforces the very conditions they wish to escape. Instead, they take full responsibility for their lives, understanding that to claim power over their reality, they must first claim power over their minds. They do not dwell on problems. They focus on solutions. They do not spiral into negativity. They remain steadfast in their vision, knowing that the outer world must eventually conform. When challenges arise, they do not see them as obstacles, but as opportunities to strengthen their mastery. They know that true power is not in controlling circumstances, but in controlling their response to them. They do not react with fear or doubt. They respond with certainty and grace. No matter how difficult a situation may appear, they hold firm to the truth that they are greater than any circumstance. They lead. They know that their assumption of victory guarantees their success, no matter how things may seem in the moment. They understand that the greatest illusion is the belief that reality is fixed. They do not accept limitations imposed by society, by others, or even by past versions of themselves. Instead, they rewrite the narrative, deciding that they are always in control, that everything is working in their favor, and that no external condition has the power to dictate their destiny. They do not waste energy trying to force things to happen. They move with ease, knowing that the reality they desire is already set in motion. They do not chase, they attract. They do not beg, they assume. They carry themselves as though they already have everything they desire, and by doing so, life has no choice but to reflect their belief back to them. They do not fear change because they know they are the ones who create it. If something no longer serves them, they release it without hesitation. They do not cling to the past, nor do they worry about the future. They remain fully present. embodying the energy of the woman who has already mastered her world. Every thought, every emotion, and every belief is deliberately chosen, ensuring that the reality they experience is one of power, certainty, and absolute control. Love is not merely an emotion, but the most powerful creative force in existence. It is the energy from which all things are born, the force that shapes reality, and the essence of true power. The rarest women in the world understand this truth deeply. They do not view love as something to be obtained from others, nor do they see it as a fleeting feeling subject to circumstance. Instead, they recognize love as a state of being, a frequency they embody, and a force they use to transform their world. These women do not wait for love to be given to them, they become it. They radiate love effortlessly, knowing that whatever they project outward is reflected back to them. They do not chase affection or validation because they are already full. They have mastered the understanding that love is not something external, it is something they generate from within. Because they live in a state of love, they attract relationships, opportunities, and experiences that mirror this energy. They do not use love as a condition, nor do they withhold it based on circumstances. Their love is not transactional or dependent on how others behave. They do not need others to act a certain way for them to feel whole. Instead, they love because it is their nature to do so. This love is not weakness, it is their greatest strength. It allows them to move through life with grace, to rise above pettiness, and to create harmony where there is discord. When these women enter a room, they shift the energy around them. They bring warmth, compassion, and a quiet confidence that comes from knowing they are enough. They do not need to prove themselves or compete for attention because their presence alone commands it. Others are drawn to them, not because they demand it, but because love is magnetic, and they have become the very embodiment of it. They understand that love is not just about relationships with others. It is about how they relate to themselves and to life itself. They love their own being without conditions, without needing external approval. They do not criticize or belittle themselves, for they know that to do so would be to diminish their own creative power. Instead, they speak to themselves with kindness. They nurture their dreams with belief, and they trust in their own worthiness without question. Their love is not passive, it is active. They use love to dissolve fear, to transcend limitations, and to shape their reality. When faced with difficulties, they do not respond with resentment or resistance. Instead, they infuse love into the situation, knowing that love transforms everything it touches. They do not see enemies. They see people acting from their own wounds. They do not hold grudges. They release, understanding that to forgive is not to excuse, but to free themselves from the weight of negativity. Love to them is not a weakness, but the highest form of power. It is the energy that creates worlds, the force that heals, the foundation upon which they build lives. It is the secret to their radiance, their influence, and their ability to manifest with ease. It is not something they seek. To live in the end is to move through life with the absolute certainty that what you desire is already yours. It is not wishing, hoping, or waiting for something to happen. It is assuming with an unwavering conviction that it has already come to pass. The rarest women in the world understand this principle intimately. They do not look at their current reality as fixed or final. Instead, they remain faithful to the unseen, knowing that their inner world determines their outer experience. Living in the end requires a complete shift in identity. These women do not think, feel, or act as someone who is trying to become. They think, feel, and act as someone who already is. They do not entertain thoughts of lack or delay. If they desire success, they embody the mindset of someone who is already successful. If they desire love, they move through life as if they are already cherished and adored. If they desire abundance, they carry themselves with the assurance that wealth is already flowing to them effortlessly. They do not concern themselves with the how or the when because they understand that these are not their burdens to carry. Their only responsibility is to remain steadfast in their assumption, to persist in the feeling of already having what they want. They do not check for signs or look for proof, for they know that seeking validation in the external world only affirms the absence of what they desire. Instead, they trust that their assumption is enough, that reality must bend to match the state they have claimed within. Doubt does not exist for them. They do not allow themselves to oscillate between belief and fear, certainty and skepticism. They are unwavering, knowing that the moment they assume something to be true, it is set in motion. They do not allow temporary appearances to shake their conviction. Even if circumstances seem to contradict their desire, they remain unbothered, for they know that reality is always catching up to their dominant state of being. They do not force or chase. They attract effortlessly. Because they already are in their minds, life has no choice but to align with their inner state. They understand that when a desire is fully accepted as a present reality, the external world must rearrange itself to reflect it. They do not entertain thoughts of delay, for they know that the only timeline that exists is now. They move through life with quiet confidence, knowing that they are not waiting for their dreams to unfold. They are simply walking toward the inevitable. They embody the energy of someone who has already arrived. They do not need external validation because they already know. They do not question or second guess because they have fully assumed the role of the woman who already possesses everything she desires. Living in the end is not about pretending or daydreaming. It is about claiming with absolute certainty that the version of reality they desire is already real. It is about embodying that state so fully that the external world has no choice but to reflect it back to them. It is about becoming before seeing, knowing before receiving, and trusting before witnessing. It is the ultimate act of faith, the highest form of creation, and the secret to effortless manifestation. The rarest women in the world are not defined by circumstances, nor do they wait for validation. They embody love, faith, and certainty, mastering their reality by assuming the end result as already theirs. They do not chase, they attract. They do not react, they create. Through unwavering belief, self-concept, and the power of imagination, they shape the world around them with effortless grace. They do not live in limitation, but in boundless possibility, knowing they are the operant power in their lives. Their mastery is not in force, but in alignment, not in struggle, but in absolute knowing.